This is video number 2 for environmental justice for the P Core class, environmental justice and risk communication component. Now I'm talking about environmental justice. I just defined it in the last one. I'm showing you some case studies. So what is environmental justice? It's this issue with having an undue exposure to pollutants based on your income, your race, your position in life, and your position in the society. The inequitable pollution burden by groups such as racial minorities, women, poor residents of developing nations. So I showed you already this thing here about this big amoeba eating up this slowly engulfing this neighborhood here. And then we're talking about the Oasis Trailer Park near Thermal, California, and some of the issues there and what it is. So recently, environmental justice has been on the radar of a lot of academics and a lot of people in the nation. And one of the things that people refer to environmental justice is environmental racism. Well, that's true. It is racism based on race. Sometimes will be a predictor to whether or not somebody's going to be exposed to a pollutant. So in order to come through this, what Flint's water crisis taught us is that we need to hold our elected officials accountable for things, and we need to advocate for certain things with them. You'll see I'll talk about this in a risk communication bit as well, how to actually communicate these things to them. But poor planning decisions and low priorities of communities and neighborhoods and people generally make infrastructure and things and businesses get built while ignoring families and while ignoring other issues. So a weakness in our political system is to hold up and protect the most vulnerable communities. So we need to expose that weakness and move on to help prioritize the underserved populations. So one way to look at it is that this is environmental racism. It's nothing new. It's been going on forever. You go to any country in the world, you're going to have environmental racism. The pollutants, the poor air quality, the food deserts where people don't have enough food near where they live to buy, and the type of vehicles that go past their house. Even like in San Bernardino in downtown, you might have a lot more exposure to big trucks than you are if you're going to live over in the nice neighborhood in Redlands or Loma Linda like I do. So those things are definitely environmental racism. Environmental justice. So these are some issues with what it is. So in most of these places, like I showed you with this this place that's in San Bernardino, where you have Loma Linda in one side, and then you have Loma Linda's here, and then that environmental justice place is here. It's very close usually, and it's the same in eastern Coachella Valley. This is actually a picture from a Google Earth shot again of a neighborhood that's very close to where that Oasis Trailer Park was. And these people obviously don't have a problem with their wastewater. In fact, these mansions here have a water skiing park out in front of their yard, and this canal right here, which is the Coachella Canal, goes to Palm Springs and some other places to deliver water. And the water is used for golf courses as well as agriculture. So this is a place that's 14 miles from Oasis Mobile Home Park. Is this something that we want to go for? Is this a healthy community? Well, there's a lot of debate about that, but overall I would say that it's a much better way to live than it is to live down there in Oasis Mobile Home Park. So here's another, what does an EJ community look like? So here's one of the mobile home parks near Thermal, and then this is some farm worker housing out there in Coachella Valley. What do you do? So now this video is mostly about what do you do with environmental justice issues in policy programming. So one thing's for sure is you work with community environmental groups, environmental justice groups. You have to coordinate with the local health departments, the buy-in from local officials. You have to urge governmental jurisdictions to prioritize meaningful public engagement. You have social media promotion. You do walk audits and complete streets assessments. You know, there's a lot of things to do, but overall you have to unite with everybody, including the stakeholders. And a lot of those stakeholders are people that are in the local governments and are some of the elected officials. And in the case of Eastern Coachella Valley, they have some people that are actually advocating for them, and that's a good thing. Social media, also you have to get the young people on board, and so there's some groups out there in Eastern Coachella Valley I could tell you about that are doing some innovative things with that. Coordination with local health departments is also an important thing. Walk audits and complete streets assessments. So you might have heard people talk about in the School of Public Health windshield surveys. Well, I always am like, why would you do a windshield survey when you can do a walk audit? Or why would you do that when you can do ground truthing? Get out of the car and walk around. Things on the human level don't happen so fast that you can drive past them and see what's going on. You need to get out of the car. You need to smell the air. Is it stinky? You need to turn off that, that filter in your car that filters the air for you. Got to get out. You have to walk around. So windshield survey isn't the best approach to kind of view what these things are. Also, other types of walking assessments that you can do. Hazard assessments. You go around and you see where the hazards are when you're walking around. You see where kids are playing. You can see places that might have graffiti or might be neglected. You see blight a lot better. Even a bicycle or maybe even a motorcycle assessment would be good, or a Segway assessment. But a windshield survey kind of puts you behind something you can't exactly get at what you're looking at. You might as well just do a satellite assessment where you use Google Earth and look at the community. Remember we talked about community-led total sanitation in Bangladesh for the World Toilet Day. So the importance of EJ data in California, there are lots of data out there now, but unfortunately in Eastern Coachella Valley there's not much there to help them. There's just not a lot of data that's actually collected to advocate for the people out there to demonstrate that they're having this hard time, and that is mostly because they're on the tribal land. Those groups are on the tribal land, or it could also be that they are just not enough organized data. But in a lot of other places there is a lot of data, and that does effectively show where some of these environmental justice communities are. So the California Enviro Screen 3.0 uses a lot of different indicators to come up to these metrics. So they get a total score based on pollution burden times population characteristics, and it goes directly towards this idea of environmental justice. So the pollution burden is all of these environmental exposures like PM2.5, ozone, diesel, drinking water contaminants, pesticide, traffic density, environmental effects such as cleanup sites, impaired water bodies, solid waste sites and facilities, and then also the population characteristics. Maybe if sensitive populations live in those areas, rate of low birth weights, asthma emergency department visit rates, prevalence of children and the elderly, and then socioeconomic factors as well. And that gives you the California score, Cal Enviro Screen score 3.0. And so for this version here in San Bernardino, you see a lot of red. Also, you see a lot of red up here. This is the Adelanto area. Now, I just heard something on the radio the other day about Adelanto and one of the for-profit prisons that's up there. So that's, and there's also a logistics airport up there. It's kind of an interesting place. And then in downtown East LA, there's a lot of disadvantaged populations. I would think that you should see that dark red down here in Coachella, but you don't. So the Cal EJ screen is a great way to advocate for some of these communities. So it allows us to assess the communities that we live in, and it also allows us to identify environmental justice concerns. So you can go in there and you can help the community, and you can plan things better. You can know who you need to network, whether it be the Water Resources Board, the Air Resources Board, the school district, the irrigation district, one of those things. And then you can kind of identify what this community is lacking in the neighborhood and then move from there. So the EJ screen is a useful tool for that. There are some weaknesses that I talked about, but it is very good for that. And then also with the Cal Public Health, they have a tool where you can actually look where the disadvantaged communities are. Okay, so that's what I have for now for environmental justice.